Hi, my name's Mark, and this is Game Maker's Toolkit. So, each December, I like to wrap up the year by talking about some standout bits of game design from that year's games. In the past, I've talked about Metal Gear Solid 5's Fulton Extraction and Ori and the Blind Forest's player set checkpoints. I've chatted about Overwatch's Play of the Game highlight and Oxenfree's naturalistic conversation system. And so I was thinking about what I could talk about for 2017. Maybe Prey's multi-purpose glue gun, or Nier Automata's chip system, or the plane from PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. But I realised that what really stood out for me this year was an abundance of great levels, or missions, chapters, sequences, areas, maps, however a game slices up its content. Whatever the case, I've played some truly terrific levels in the past 12 months, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this episode. I will naturally be spoiling these segments, so if you see a game pop up that you desperately want to play but haven't had a chance to get around to yet, please pause the video, open up the description panel and find the timestamp for the next game. Okay, we good? Good. Let's crack on. The Dishonored series is no stranger to memorable levels. From Lady Boyle's last party in the first game to the time-travelling nonsense of Dishonored 2, Arcane has a knack for putting together great immersive sim sandboxes. And that's carried over into the spin-off game Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which has another excellent mission in Chapter 3, the bank job. As the name suggests, this mission is a bank heist, as Billy Lurk needs to retrieve some magical dagger from the complex elevator vault found inside the Dolores Michaels bank. The mission will see you breaking into the bank, looting the vault, and making your escape. Now, just like everything else in Dishonored, the bank job offers the player a huge array of options, starting with the fact that there are 3 different ways to break into the bank. You could find a painter's lift, juice it up with whale oil, and ride it up to the roof of the bank. Or you could track down the bank custodian's key, unlock this door, and ride a dumpster into the bank's sanitation area. Or you could pinch this wrench from a maintenance area, open some valves, and swim through the bank's sewers.
Why is it always sewers?
Before any of that though, you might want to find some sleep-inducing compound and pump that into the bank's ventilation system. This stuff could be found at an auction, where you can either use Death of the Outsider's face-tugging disguise power to win the compound for yourself, or you could just sneak in and pinch it. Or if you're rich and lazy, you could just buy some from the black market. Once you're inside the bank, your path is a bit more constrained. You've got to open the door to the inner atrium, go past these arc pylons, which are a bit annoying, it's hard to know where it's safe to stand with these things, and either disable or reconfigure this electrified gate to get access to the stairwell. Once you've done all that though, you're given more options. You could find the security codes needed to move the vault into the bank manager's office, or you could sneak into the attic and wrench the vault off its tracks to make it crash down into the archive, with you on top. Either way, once you've cracked open the vault, it's time for your retreat, as you must escape back to the beginning of the level. Do you sneak out, throw on a disguise and walk out, or bust out in a cloud of violence? This is a thrilling stage, which calls back to the sort of intricate heist design of Dishonored's ancestor, Thief. Plus, it exemplifies everything that Dishonored does well. The huge number of choices stops the mission from feeling like a scripted sequence and lets you switch up your plans on the fly. Plus, the bank is an interconnected building that doesn't immediately feel like a video game level, but it's carefully constructed for the game's strengths, with loads of verticality so you can perch above the guards and plan your next attack. And plenty of options for systems-driven mischief. There are also loads of rewards for players who explore and pay attention. There are extra vaults and lockboxes you can break into if you can find the codes, another Jindosh lock like in Dishonored 2 for any mathematicians out there, and hey, even a reference to Arcane's other game, Prey. Oh, and don't forget the contracts. These are bonus missions you can take on, which not only give you extra objectives, but can also change how you approach the main mission. This one, Quiet as a Mouse, will reward you if you do the entire mission without being spotted and without killing a single guard. Maybe this will encourage you to play the game in an interesting fashion. In last year's Uncharted 4, Naughty Dog experimented with a sort of wide linear level design for a chapter set in Madagascar that allowed for a small amount of exploration and discovery. That concept was brought back and expanded upon in this year's standalone expansion, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which suddenly opens up for the 4th chapter, the Western Ghats. So Chloe and Nadine get to bomb around in a jeep as they explore this open-ended area. Their goal is to climb to the top of 3 towers, solve a simple puzzle on each one, and create a path to the next zone. The towers are, of course, weenies. As we discussed in the episode on guiding players through environmental design, Naughty Dog loves using big tall structures as navigational landmarks, and they come very handy in a chapter where the player is expected to find their own way around. But if you get lost, you've also got a map, which is one of those physical, in-world maps that I just can't get enough of. Anyway, each tower is like a tiny slice of Uncharted gameplay, with a mix of combat, climbing, and puzzle solving. Though one tower is more about puzzles with this grid-based conundrum that reminds me of Lara Croft Go, while another might focus more on fighting dozens of goons. Also, the towers are carefully designed so you don't have to simply backtrack down the exact same way you climbed up. By using one-way paths and gates, the towers become loops where you follow an unbroken path from bottom to bottom again. Smart. Now, you can tackle the 3 towers in any order you like, but Naughty Dog pulls a really clever trick to stop the difficulty curve or the storytelling from falling apart. Because the puzzle you do at the top of the tower will always ramp up in complexity no matter which order you climb the towers, because the puzzle is dynamically made easier or harder depending on whether this is the 1st, 2nd,
This one's a bit trickier.
or 3rd tower you've climbed.
Oh, what the hell? That's not fair.
Similarly, the conversations between Chloe and Nadine will always happen in the same order regardless of which tower you climb first. The cutscenes are the same, but the background is swapped out, allowing for a natural story arc to play out between these 2 women no matter how you play.
Heard you and those Drake brothers are close.
All of which proves that non-linear gameplay doesn't have to screw with story or the way puzzles and combat ramps up. Level design doesn't have to be set in stone, it can dynamically shift and alter to account for the player's actions. I gotta give credit to the Gaming Brit for pointing this out in his video on Naughty Dog and non-linearity. I had a hunch, but Charlie confirmed it with his video. Anyway, alongside the 3 towers, you can also solve a bunch of optional puzzles to get treasures. This might be a climbing challenge like reaching checkpoints within a timer, an environmental puzzle like ringing bells, or a combat challenge like clearing out a small camp. If you get the lot of these tokens, you'll unlock a cool and genuinely useful treasure, which I won't spoil for you. But the cool thing is, you don't have to do any of this if you don't want to. If you don't care, you can blow straight past it and just focus on the critical path content. Up to you. Personally, I loved this section and spent a couple of hours just exploring, listening to Chloe and Nadine get to know each other, finding all the knickknacks and having a bit of a breather between the game's more fast-paced, linear and bombastic chapters. Man, it's hard to pick a single standout kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey. Do I go with Steam Gardens with its groovy music, the uproots, and the deep woods? Or the Luncheon Kingdom, which is a low-poly volcano kitchen with lava bubbles and Koopa chefs? Or maybe even the darker side, which tests you on everything you've learned about the game in a punishing gauntlet of platforming challenges? But okay, let's be real. It's gotta be the Metro Kingdom, home of New Donk City. This is unlike anything we've seen in a Mario game before. I guess accurately proportioned 1950s business person is a species like Toad, Snail, and Talking Fork. But hold on, we're getting ahead of ourselves. The level begins in darkness and rain, and you must storm the city by capturing, blasting, and avoiding Sherm tanks to get through the streets. Your goal is the Mecha Wiggler at the top of the Town Hall Tower, which sees you climbing stairs, jumping between girders, and bouncing through the inside of Town Hall. Then there's the boss. Okay, not the best boss in the game, I'll give you, but completing this task completely changes the city. It's now daytime, there are sunny skies, and the level has opened up into a sprawling playground. There's no longer any rampart stopping you from exploring side alleys, and new power lines give you easy access to the rooftops. And up here is where Mario's advanced moveset really comes into play, as you can jump between pretty much any two buildings with the right combination of jumps, dives, and cap throws. If this game's twist on New York City brings to mind other virtual Manhattans like Grand Theft Auto, then the way you get around in this game, bouncing on taxis, swinging on street signs, and jumping between buildings, is completely different. Though you can still ride a scooter. Eventually you start to realise that there's no enemies on the streets of New Donk City. There's a few monsters in the spin-off rooms and the power station, but not on the streets, which means that just looking for moons, jumping around and exploring is so much fun that the Metro Kingdom can entirely ditch combat, which is always a plus in my book. Finally, once you've done a few extra tasks for Mayor Pauline, you start The Festival, which is a celebration of Mario's triumph over Donkey Kong back in the 80s, and it's just a lovely bit of fan service for Mario nerds like me. This really highlights how Mario games can be completely new and unexpected, but also nostalgic to his past. And maybe that's colouring my opinion somewhat. A better level would perhaps focus squarely around a single mechanic and expand and vary it over time, but I don't know, there's just something about New Donk City which really gets to the heart of Mario Odyssey. It's a weird, creative, densely packed sandbox city which is just joyously fun to climb and explore. This year, walking simulators found new ways to tell stories. Tacoma, from Gone Home developer Fulbright, reinvented the tired old audio diary as an interactive cutscene with augmented reality ghosts who walk and talk their way around a spaceship. But the standout game was actually What Remains of Edith Finch, a touching story about family and loss which uses the controller to create a bond between you and the unlucky characters in the Finch family. It starts with simple actions, like pushing on the analog stick or mouse to open doors, peer through letterboxes, and twist can openers. But in the vignettes, you'll find yourself acting as different animals, swinging back and forth, and flying a kite in ways that connect you directly to the story at hand. The best one, though, unquestionably, is the vignette for Lewis Finch.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse.
This one takes place in a fish cannery, where you pick up fish from the left side of the screen, swing them over to the guillotine on the right, and then push them onto the conveyor belt up top. Over, and over, and over again. It's a monotonous job, which inevitably leads Lewis's mind to wander, and this manifests itself as a second game over on the left. It starts as a simple maze game, but grows progressively more interesting and imaginative. You realise that you have to do both games at once, not just because the fish get in the way of the daydream, but various locks in the imaginary world won't open until you chop off a fish's head in the real world. However, there's no predictable rhythm to the fish, so you can't completely switch off your brain and rely on rote muscle memory. Over time, the daydream becomes bigger, taking up more and more of the screen as it takes up more and more of Lewis's attention, with just faint echoes of his boring job appearing in the imaginary world. The secondary game starts to introduce choices, get bigger and louder, and then envelop the whole screen as it shifts from a top-down perspective to a full-on first-person viewpoint, until the real world of the Cannery merges into the fake world of his imagination, which leads to, well, I'll let you play the game yourself for that. This is a pretty incredible bit of empathetic storytelling because it uses the interactivity of the game to clearly express how it feels to daydream while working. Your hands are doing two things, which reflects how Lewis's mind is split, and it shows how one side starts to dominate the other, clearly expressing how Lewis retreats into his own thoughts and imagination. This is a real benefit of video game storytelling, using the interactivity of the medium to draw us into the game and make us think and feel like the character in the story. Finally, it might be a surprise to see a level from a Call of Duty campaign on a list like this. These missions are often painfully linear, with tight corridors, repetitive set pieces, and, in the older games at least, enemies who infinitely respawn until you advance further. But there have been some standouts too, like the much-loved sniper mission from Call of Duty 4. And today I want to propose a new great COD stage from this year's entry, World War II. The level is called Liberation.
Who sent you?
Herr Spiegel.
Good. Whatever happens, once you make the trade, you must maintain possession of the briefcase at all times.
I've come this far. I'll be damn sure I'm going to finish it.
The mission is about taking down a Nazi garrison, and it unfolds in 4 major sections. Now the level opens in a very unconventional style. You're French resistance spy Rousseau, in disguise as a Nazi, and you can walk freely around the garrison. You'll only be stopped by officers looking to check your papers, and here you'll be asked to answer questions about your background, so you better have memorized your cover story, which you can check at any time. This isn't the most in-depth mechanic, I'll admit. It's a simple question with 2 choices, and getting it wrong either leads to an instant game over or an insignificant change in the story.
Natürlich, mein Herr. Sie können weiter, Fräulein.
But it is something different, and it adds to the role-playing feel of the mission. It feels good to know your cover story and answer the questions correctly. It really sells the spy drama. Anyway, you're supposed to be looking for your contact, Fisher, and there's a few different ways to do it. You can explore and find him yourself, or you can ask people if they've seen him. You might pinch this guy's key and unlock a route to the basement, or pick this lock and sneak up to the 2nd floor. It's not exactly Hitman or Dishonored in its size and scope, but it works. You can also find and release captured French citizens who will help out later in the mission if you take the time to rescue them. After finding Fisher, exchanging briefcases, and getting back to your buddy Crowley, the game changes. It's now a stealth mission as you drop into the courtyard with a silenced pistol and a task to plant explosives on the north and south gates. There are lots of different routes to take. You can duck back into the garrison, climb up high onto balconies, or sneak along the ground. If you get spotted, the game rolls with it, shifting into a traditional firefight, which goes to show that we still need to figure out how to do better fail states with non-traditional gameplay. This is where those French citizens you saved earlier come into play though. They'll join in the fight and help you out, which is a nice nod to your heroic actions from before. Plant the 2 explosives and the mission swaps to Private Daniels, the actual protagonist of the game. His squad is waiting for the garrison's doors to blow, and on that signal, storm along the streets of Paris to bust in. This is a more traditional firefight, the bread and butter of Call of Duty, but it works really well. You want to help Rousseau, you've built a connection there having played as her for a spell, and you know exactly where you need to go. The Nazi garrison, covered in swastikas and lit up with lights, is the perfect weenie to draw you down the street and over the bridge. The fight to the garrison is all long-range shooting down a bridge, but when busting in, Crowley gives you a shotgun and now it's close-range combat for a few minutes. Up top, the game shifts again, this time from push-forward offense to hold-your-ground defense, as you grab a sniper rifle and a handful of Molotov cocktails and hold back waves and waves of Nazis who are trying to take back the garrison. You know the geography of the place because you were just on that bridge yourself 5 minutes ago, so it's easy to understand where the enemy is coming from and how they will get to the garrison. Take them all out and you get a classic slow-motion, ears-ringing cinematic moment to blow up a half-track and finish the mission. The garrison is yours and Paris has been liberated.
There's no turning back. France has reclaimed Paris.
The mission's great for lots of reasons. It's trying a new style of gameplay, and by reusing the same areas from earlier in the mission, it helps you to understand the space. But the real star is the pacing. It shifts from espionage to stealth to firefights to clearing out rooms to defending your position. Every beat is mechanically different with their own speeds and directions, but they build in intensity throughout the mission, from a slow and quiet beginning through to a loud and bombastic finale. This sort of pace and rhythm can be found in the best cinematic games, so ultimately, if you're going to do one of these heavily scripted, linear, set-piece stages, it better be as good as this one. So there we have it, 5 great levels which will stick with me for some time. But of course, there have been plenty more I could mention. The Baker House from Resident Evil 7, a bunch of worlds from A Hat in Time, and various shrines and dungeons from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Don't worry, I'll be coming back to them. But please leave your favourite levels from this year's games in the comments below. And I'll be back before the year is done with my usual look at the single most interesting and innovative game of the past 12 months. Thanks for watching. Game Maker's Toolkit is funded on Patreon, and these are my top tier supporters. This time I want to plug our Discord channel. It's just for backers, and it's a lovely, cozy little chat room for talking about games, game development, and pictures of cats and stuff. It's a great place to hang out, so please consider pledging $1 a month to come join in.